send me that.
Okay, so we're gonna bring this meeting to order for the Finance Committee of March the 25th, 2015. Could I have a roll call, please?
We have present Marilyn Jordan, Tom Worthy, Alice Bailey, Dominic Caminaro, and Bonnie Jean Catuli.
Okay. Do I have any citizens' participation at this time? I think I hear them running up the stairs. No, maybe not. Okay. All right, while they're tweaking with this, I'm going to jump over to one of the warrant articles that I think would be a quick assessment and vote, and we can get it out of our way. Regular town meeting, article number 3, compensation of certain appointed officials. We have a number now. The clerk is $69,332. The moderator is $118 per diem, and the registrar is $700 per annum. Do I have a motion for approval of this article?
I make a motion that we approve the article as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can you just repeat that?
The clerk is $69,332. The moderator is $118 per diem. And the registrar is $700 per annum.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. You close? Okay. Stretch. Let's see. That's when I get out of my way here.
How's your singing?
Okay.
There we go.
You're up? Okay.
Six zero zero.
Thank you. We're 5. We're a committee of 9, therefore we must have 5 for a quorum. Are we ready?
We are.
I would introduce to the committee, if they don't know you, this is Mr. Dutch, and he is the superintendent of the Upper Cape Regional Technical School. Take it away, Mr. Dutch.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to present our budget to you this evening.
Why don't we get the lights?
Yeah, please.
Prior to starting the presentation, I'd like to introduce 2 members of our committee. You know, one of your representatives from the town of Wareham, our chairman, Mr. Robert Fichtenmeyer, and representing the town of Bourne, Mrs. Mary Crook. And as you all know, Mr. Camerano is the other representative to the town, from the town of Wareham to the Upper Cape Cod Regional Committee. As I present the budget, I'm going to start with some background information, and then we'll get into the line item details with some final pieces regarding the assessment. Each year, the school creates a theme. This year, our theme is an acronym of Upper Cape Tech. And I include it in this presentation because we feel as though each of the 5-member towns is part of the United Committed Team. It takes a commitment from each of the communities as part of the Upper Cape Tech team to create a budget and sustain the programs and the facilities that we have. The members of our budget subcommittee are Steve Chalk, the treasurer, from Sandwich, Mary Crook, as I mentioned, from Bourne, Michael Deegan from Sandwich, and Mr. Camerano from Wareham. Before we begin the budget process, we identify guiding principles for development of that process. So I'll just very quickly go through these guiding principles. The first, which is not unique to Upper Cape Tech, we all look to implement our teaching and learning initiatives. For Massachusetts, that includes the Massachusetts Common Core State Standards, our educator evaluation system, the new testing system, PARC, and for our career and technical school, competency tracking. Our vocational technical students, the competencies that they learn in the shop need to be tracked because they get a separate certificate for those programs. We also look to sustain the existing curricular and extracurricular programs in the school. Just like any town school, we're required to provide mandated services, both in general education and special education. I will bring to your attention that through the state, we do have the capacity to charge a special education student rate for those students who come to us with an individualized education plan. Upper Cape Tech does not do that. We never have. One of the other guiding principles for our development of our budget is to maintain reasonable class size. You're going to see in this budget that our enrollment has gone up. It has continued to go up the last 3 years, and we have not added any staff in those 3 years, and this budget does not represent any increased staff either. We're getting to that tipping point where class size is getting to where it's not comfortable, it's not in the best interest of students, and we're going to need to look at adding staff and potentially creating some space for those classrooms. And then finally, we look to maintain our existing facilities and avoid deferred maintenance. We are a 45-year-old building. As you know, if you've been to the school, we do a very good job of taking care of what you've given us, and deferred maintenance is always more expensive than ongoing maintenance. So we always focus on trying to take care of things before they need to be replaced rather than repaired. And obviously, a guiding principle that goes without saying is we're always cognizant of the situation that our member towns are in. We realize that costs are outpacing revenue regardless of what department we're talking about. Some budget highlights that I'll bring to your attention, and you'll see them in greater detail. First of all, the foundation budget increase represents an increase of 4.428% compared to FY 2015, and I'll explain where that comes from. No additional staffing. There is a $20 per student increase in Chapter 70 dollars, which for us represents $14,400 additional dollars. We've had an enrollment increase this year. Also, something that's new to Upper Cape Tech is responsibility for school choice students. We do not participate in school choice, yet the 5-member towns that are part of the regional school district do. So, for example, a student from Wareham is attending Taunton High School in a technical program that we don't have. So we bear the responsibility of that school choice rate. So the $5,000 for that student is our responsibility and not the Wareham Public Schools, because they're in a Chapter 74 program in Taunton. So there are 4 such students across the 5 districts. 2 are attending programs in Falmouth. 1 is actually attending from Bourne to Wareham in your marketing program, and then the other is going from Wareham to Taunton. And I'm not sure what program they're in Taunton. We also have been notified this past year that in 1968, when the regional agreement was signed, the school committee had a choice as to how they wanted to handle retirees. Not those participating in the teacher retirement system, but the secretaries, custodians, paraprofessionals, those that are part of the Massachusetts municipal retirement system. They voted to take responsibility for any retirement benefit that came about once the annuity portion of a retiree's pension had been exhausted. For 45 years, the state never billed us for any of those retirees. They were then audited by the federal government, and the federal government came to the realization that they had been negligent in providing us with a bill. Fortunately, They chose not to bill us for the entire 45 years that they had not previously, and they were only going to bill us for 3 years prior, as well as each year as we move forward. The cost right now per year is about $155,000, so that would represent $465,000 over the 3 years in back payments. We have not budgeted that amount in this budget. We've only budgeted the $155,000 for FY15, which would come to us as a bill in FY16. We have legislation that has been filed on our behalf by Senator DiMacedo with many co-sponsors that is asking to forgive those 3 years in the past. And it's our hope that that will be successful through both the Senate and the House, so that we're not having to pay for something that's already incurred and been paid for through the state in past budgets. So hopefully we're only going to have to deal with forward billings. And then finally, Upper Cape Tech participates in the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. Our insurance rates have increased by 10% this year, so that's a pretty significant driver of our budget. I want to demonstrate to you the per pupil cost comparison. And again, I want to emphasize this is by assessment. This isn't our actual per pupil cost. This is the cost to Wareham or each of these towns for a student to attend Upper Cape Tech, as compared to the cost to attend the town public school, and in this case Wareham. So that you can see each student attending Upper Cape Tech from Wareham costs the town of Wareham $11,115. And you'll see that as you look at the assessment, the number of students that have increased. We have 7 more students from Wareham this year, and the increase in the assessment is about $84,000, which represents $11,000 per student. So what do you get for your dollar? Obviously, our outcomes are excellent. 100% of our students pass MCAS. We have a 96.8% graduation rate, a 0.3% dropout rate, which represents 1 student, and 70% of our students this past year went on to 2 or 4-year colleges. So you can see why we are a school of choice, and many students look to attend Upper Cape Tech. We have significant successes in working with students.
You both me answer the question?
Yes.
Has that 70% going to college, has that number been increasing over the years, or is that a steady number, or?
It fluctuates within 60 to 70% over the
Still
last
that
5
high,
years.
that's good.
Yeah, the last 5 years it's been in that range.
But you think vocational,
You don't think
you
college?
don't think college, is that correct?
Well,
Yeah.
interestingly, there aren't many careers any longer that you can go straight to the workforce without some post-secondary education. Now, it may be a technical college like New England Tech, but in many of our courses, there's a need. Programmers, for example, it's hard to go right from the high school programming course into industry.
So do you then measure, like the other high schools do, in the proficiency in English, math, and sciences?
We do.
What are your scores?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can tell you that by the time students are in 12th grade, 100% of them are proficient in math and English. Okay? We are in the 90% are proficient or advanced. I think it was 93% in English this past year, proficient or advanced. In math, it was 82%. Okay, it's within 1 or 2%.
Okay, so
Okay.
82 in the math area.
And 93.
93, yeah, that's more typical of Massachusetts average.
Yep. So I want to, there's a lot of things out there between Facebook and newspaper articles and I wanted to set the record straight and make sure that everybody understands the costs and the relationships between costs and the number of students. So I've put together a couple of slides that should help explain that. Upper Cape Tech's per pupil expenditures have increased 14% for over a 6-year period, while our enrollment has increased 13% in that same time frame. When you look at our member towns, the other 5 towns, 4 besides Wareham, the per pupil expenditures have increased anywhere from 15.8% to 28.4%, with a decline in enrollment on average of 17%. So you can see that our per pupil expenditures go up very modestly, particularly given the enrollment increases. And when you look at what's happening in the other towns, it's going in the other direction. So let's take a specific look by town. So these are our per pupil expenditures. So that you can see, we'll look at Wareham specifically. Per pupil expenditure for Wareham is $14,000. From FY12 to FY13, your per pupil expenditure went up 14.62%. These come straight from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Upper Cape Tech's per pupil expenditure from FY12 to FY13, the most recent year that the data is available, went down by 3% per pupil. So I think that speaks pretty significantly to, and if you think back to the previous slide, our enrollment goes up, but our budget does not go up equally as you would anticipate it would. When you look at the same numbers for the other 5 towns, enrollment's going down while the budgets continue to go up, and therefore per pupil expenditures obviously will go up.
Is that the best barometer of the efficiency with which you operate? I mean, you could, if your class size goes from 20 to 25 students per class, your overhead doesn't go up that much.
That's correct. That's correct. Which is, but it, you know, if you look at that in the inverse, if your class size goes from 24 to 20, your overhead doesn't go down significantly.
So the increase in pupil count is helping you.
Is helping,
Sure.
because we're not increasing the budget, we're not adding staff.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's like making more widgets from the same factory with the same number of people.
Well,
It gets a
that's
lot
right.
more
I mean,
productive.
We gotta look at the other, the one prior that shows the exact opposite for the.
That's a whole nother discussion, but go on, Mr. Dutch.
Okay. Go ahead, you had a question.
Well, I hate to go back, but for a second, now you raise, it really becomes important to ask, how do you determine the allocation for each town? Because if I'm sitting there from,
Oh,
let's
that's,
say,
oh, yeah, he's a newbie.
Okay, these are not our allocations per town. These are the per pupil expenditures from.
no, in your own.
He's
I'm
gonna get to that.
I'm gonna get to that.
He's gonna get to the
Yeah,
formula.
thank you, because that, if I'm from Marion, I'm gonna start asking questions.
Okay. There's another town you might ask more questions from.
Oh. Newbie.
So if you look at this over a 5-year period, it's the same information we provided, except now it's not averaged, it is by town, and you can see over the 6-year period what's happened to per pupil expenditures in the town of Wareham in comparison to Upper Cape Tech. And it's significantly a function of the number of students and the decrease in enrollment without a decrease in your budget. Upper Cape Tech, one of the other measures is net school spending. There is a minimum required net school spending that comes from the state. Upper Cape Tech is lower than the average school district in the Commonwealth, and certainly one of the lowest compared to the member towns for FY 2013. So let's look at this budget and where the money is going. And I think this is important to look at before you see the actual line item numbers so that you get some understanding of where the money is going. of our nearly $13 million budget, 61% goes to instruction. If you look at your own town school district budget, it's probably closer to 80%. That's the state average of the dollar amount that goes to instruction. The reason that it's a lower amount for us is, as a regional school, we have fixed charges and operations and maintenance, which is part of our budget, which is not the case for town high schools. And you can see what the other percentages are. Fixed charges include health insurance, building insurance, primarily, and then obviously the retiree benefits, which I mentioned. And that brings me to the next slide. So this is what we're looking for as an increase in our gross foundation budget. $574,000 approximately. You can see that only 30% of that increase that we're requesting is going to instruction. 46% is going to fixed charges. I can tell you it's going to health insurance, workers' compensation insurance, building insurance, and the retiree benefits. And that's why it's eating up such a large chunk of the increase. Okay? If we look at the foundation budget percent increases over the years, with the exception of the years FY06 to FY08, FY09, it's been relatively modest. Certainly not at the 2.5% that Proposition 2.5 represents, but I mentioned earlier, there are very few entities within a town that are able to stay within that 2.5% given the costs of doing business. This is a graphical analysis of enrollment versus our budget. Whether we look at gross operating budget or gross foundation budget, it doesn't really matter. You can see that our budget has gone up at a slower pace than our enrollment. And that brings us back to why you're seeing the savings or the minimal increases in per pupil expense. Okay, so let's get to the actual line items. Most of these I will go through pretty quickly. There are a couple that are fairly high, and I want to explain why they are where they are. So the school committee line item, which entails the clerk supplies, other modest increase of 0.25%. My office, which represents all the salaries in my office, plus our supplies, is an increase of 3.48%. In the business and finance area, legal, auditing, information technology salaries is a 2.11% increase. I would like to point out something that is unique to Upper Cape Tech, and I don't think it exists in too many places. We do not have a business manager. The business manager is the superintendent. So you're getting 2 people at one person's salary, and none of my salary is into the business and finance line item. So you're getting a deal. Within the instruction function, primarily salaries, principal, secretaries in the principal's office, and our supervisors, our administrators, all fall into that line item, and again, a modest increase. I should say that we've negotiated a 2% raise, a cost of living increase with all of our staff across the board. So when you see 2% or more, you know that that represents primarily cost of living raises. If you see less than 2%, we've got some savings in some area of that line item. Teaching, again, you see a modest increase of 1.95%, less than the 2% that's negotiated. When you consider step raises and column moves, it should be much higher than 2%, and it's not, because we've hired some new staff who come in at lower salaries than the folks that they've replaced. With that said, you get to the professional development line item, which has increased by a little bit over 8%, and it's because of the teaching line item that you see above. We've negotiated with our teachers that we pay for their degree advancement for education, And because we've got so many younger teachers who are at the lower end of the schedule with a bachelor's degree, or in some cases, for technical teachers who aren't required to have a degree, they go on to school to get their degree or get a master's degree, and we're paying for that. So you can see why that would go up as our teaching staff becomes a little newer and younger. Continuing in the instruction function, our textbook program remains at $25,000 with no increase. And again, I want to draw your attention to 3 years ago. We went to an iPad initiative, a one-to-one initiative, and our textbook program went from $40,000 to $25,000. And we've kept it at that lower rate. We've also found that within supplies, we've been able to save money on paper. Traditionally, we ordered 3 pallets of paper. Last year, we ordered 1.5. So we've been able to cut back on paper supplies and everything that goes with it, printing costs, toner cartridges, so that it's offset the cost of the technology that we've purchased. General supplies you see going up 3.4%. Again, the cost of most supplies and materials goes up. I'll give you an example. For us, we have copper, something that's used significantly in our plumbing program. The cost of copper has gone up significantly in the last year. So that's an example of the sort of thing that drives our supply line item up. Instructional technology within the contractual and supply line item, you see no increase. Within student services, which is guidance, you see a modest 2.47% increase, mostly salary raise increases and step and column increases. Psychological services have stayed static at 0%. Within health services, it's our nurse, a minor increase at 1.75%. Our athletic program has gone up 9%, and I'd like to provide you some rationale for that. This year was the first year that we had our own hockey program. We were co-op with Mashpee previous. Because of the number of student athletes that we had playing hockey in the cooperative program, we felt as though we could go to our own standalone program. And indeed, we were able. We had 23 hockey players on our team this year. So that's one of the things that drives that budget number up.
You got women's hockey too?
We do not. Not yet.
Do you have to by law?
a specifically male team, or can it be either?
There were a couple of girls on the team.
Okay, then you're okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
The other,
Oldie, not newbie.
the other thing that's affecting our athletic budget is to some degree, our success. I'll just go back 1 year. A year ago, 39% of our student population was participating in sports. It represented 270 student athletes. This year, 51% of our student population is participating in sports. It's 370 some students. So the students that come to Upper Cape Tech are now looking for a more complete high school experience. They're not coming in at 7:30 and leaving at 2:10 to go to a job in their trade. They want to play a sport. They want to do drama. They want to be involved in those activities. So that's why you're seeing those costs increase.
How does that number compare to the towns that, have you ever looked at their budgets?
I have not. I have not. I honestly, not specifically for athletics. And I don't know what their participation rate is either. It's not something I've looked at. Our student body activities, you can see that's gone up by 36%. So obviously I'd like to explain that to you as well. We've always participated in programs that are specific to career and technical schools called Skills USA, as well as FFA, Future Farmers of America. We have been somewhat successful over the last few years, but not to the degree that we have been in the last 2 years. For example, last year, 23 students competed at the district level, which represents 10 regional technical high schools. Those 23 students then qualify to compete at the state level. If they win a gold medal at the state level, they go to nationals. So 2 years ago, we had 11 students go to nationals based on medals they won at state. Last year, with the 23 who competed at states, we had 17 go to nationals. At nationals, we won 2 years ago 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Last year, 2 gold, 3 silver, 3 bronze. So we continue to get better and better. This year, we had 41 students win medals at districts to go to states. I don't know what the cost is going to be to go to nationals. I don't know how successful they'll be. So there's a cost associated with that. It's a cost we've never fully budgeted because we couldn't predict. What we've done is we've looked at the last 3 years to see what our costs were for Skills USA and FFA, and we've budgeted for it as we move forward. And that's why you're seeing an increase of such a significant percentage in that line item. In school security, we have a modest increase there as well. That's 1 staff member and their supplies for our cameras, our security system primarily. Within operation and maintenance, our custodial salaries, you see a decrease of 1.65%. That's for 2 reasons. One, we have replaced staff who came in at a lower rate, obviously. And second, rather than expand the cost of a staff member for one of our new buildings, we've contracted those services out, and it's much less expensive for us to do it that way. Within heating and utilities, you see a 9% increase. We're all experiencing in our own personal lives an increase with the conversion, the merger from NSTAR to Eversource and everyone who joined them. So we've anticipated about a 10% increase in the utility side of it, a little bit of a decrease in the heating side. Grounds, our salaries, supplies, equipment, and snow removal is a 4.7% increase. Continuing, our maintenance of buildings is a small 0.89% increase and a 0% increase in the maintenance of equipment. Within our fixed charges, and this is what I mentioned earlier, we've got a little over 10% increase in health benefits, workers' compensation, and that includes the post-retiree benefits. Building and student insurance has gone up. As we add these outbuildings, there's an increase in the cost of insuring those buildings. And as I mentioned, a new expense for us is the school choice at $20,000. So that our total foundation budget is $12,961,736. So let's look at revenue and transportation. So what we've budgeted for revenue comes from the Governor's House 1 at $2,923,900 for Chapter 78. Our interest revenue is down to $8,000. We no longer have any out-of-district students, so we have no deferred tuition. We get reimbursed for limited special ed costs through municipal Medicaid. That's $5,000. And the school committee has voted to apply $203,751 of excess and deficiency dollars against the budget, which represents a cost savings. It's effectively a rebate to the towns from surplus funds at the end of the school year. So rather than spend those dollars, we allow them to go to excess and deficiency, and then the school committee votes to return those to the towns. Over the last 8 years, we've given back over $1.5 million. So that our net foundation budget is $9,821,085. Our transportation costs, That which we provide by ourselves is $249,873. Our contracted transportation, which is split between two companies, is $658,373. So you can see what our total transportation costs are. We anticipate transportation aid, again based on cherry sheet numbers, of $592,207. So your net transportation budget is about a little less than a $3,000 increase this year. We then look at LPN, which is our Licensed Practical Nursing Program. It's a post-secondary program. The costs to run that program are $575,498. The tuition for that program from the students who pay that tuition is $589,500. So we have a net profit of $14,000, which goes against the transportation costs to decrease the transportation costs. So that the actual net for transportation and LPN is $302,037, a less than 1% increase. Our budgeted capital this year is $129,395. Examples, just to give you some context, our technical programs are very equipment heavy. This past year, our collision repair program needed to replace their frame straightening machine. It had been in the program for 40 years. Fortunately, we applied for and received a grant to replace that machine, which cost $79,000. If we had to use that $79,000 out of our capital budget, it wouldn't have left a whole lot of money to buy other capital equipment. But that gives you an idea of the costs of capital. One example, we have a steamer in the culinary program. It needs to be replaced. It's $40,000. So pretty significant. The bond principal, which is for the window project, is $100,000. We have a stabilization fund, and we're requesting $100,000 be put towards that. The stabilization fund in this case is specifically targeted to the wastewater treatment plant, which should be starting as soon as we no longer have frost. I don't know when that'll be. And then the bond interest has gone down to $5,000 from $15,000. We did not go to bond. We were able to get a very good rate on a ban and felt it not worthwhile to bond the windows, so we've continued to be on a ban, which has saved us some money. So we're paying $5,000 in interest for that $1.2 million project. So your total capital budget has gone down by 0.39% to $334,395. So let's look at enrollment, and now we can start to answer the question about how do we determine how much each town pays. So you can see what's happened to the enrollment, and we'll focus on Wareham. So from last year, there were 236 students, to this year, there are 243 students. So it's an increase of 7 students, which doesn't seem like much, but it represents a 2.88% increase in the number of students at Upper Cape Tech from the town of Wareham. The way that that the assessment, a piece of the assessment is calculated is based on the percentage of our population that comes from the town of Wareham. So we've got an operating budget. Wareham is responsible for 34.6% of that operating budget based on 243 students. Okay? So that's part one. Part two deals with the total number of students in Wareham in comparison to the total number of students across the 5 towns that are part of the Upper Cape Cod Regional. This is what determines what percentage of the capital budget you pay. The good news and the bad news is that although your enrollment in the town is going down, that means that your responsibility for capital budget has decreased as a percentage. It's at 21.7% this year as opposed to 22.4% from the previous year, because some of the other towns' enrollments have gone up, Falmouth and Marion in particular. So, let's continue to try to understand where the assessment comes from. The foundation budget is what the state determines is a sufficient number of dollars to educate the students from Wareham. So in FY16, the state felt like $20,606,205 was sufficient to educate all of the students in Wareham, compared to last year where it was about $100,000 higher. If you look at Upper Cape's portion of that 20 million, last year it was 10.41%, this year it's 10.85%, because you have fewer students and we have more students from Wareham than we had last year. So we're going in opposite directions. The percentage of your foundation that comes to Upper Cape is going up, while the total foundation dollars is going down. Okay? So let's look at how that becomes your assessment. So you see the difference in students. You see the minimum contribution is determined by the state, not by Upper Cape Tech. It's regardless of our budget. Based on the number of students at Upper Cape Tech, and based on your property values and your per capita income, primarily. There are some other municipal financial factors that go into that. That's where the minimum contribution comes from. You can see that this year is $2.2,035,194.
That's a state number.
That's a number that comes from the state. That's the minimum that you are required to contribute. Our budget is not at foundation, is not at the minimum contribution, so the amount that we're above based on the percentage that I showed you on those previous slides, the 32% I think it was, brings you to 427,158. The same is true for transportation. So your FY16 operating assessment is $2,764,007. Your FY16 capital assessment is $72,628. So when we add those two together, your assessment this year is $2,836,635, which is an increase from the previous year of $88,754. So our budget has gone up 4.4%. Your assessment's gone up 3.23%, and your enrollment has gone up 2.88%. So you kind of get a picture of the drivers. You get a picture that Wareham is getting a pretty good deal since our budget's gone up more than your assessment has gone up, so somebody else is bearing the brunt of that. Okay? And that's based primarily on property values and the state's determination of your ability to pay.
So in this case, what the state is doing in that minimum contribution is factoring in property values and income?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I have a formula that I'm going to give you.
So as we get property values to go up,
That, assuming that they're going up at a faster rate than the other towns. Because remember, it's a comparison. It's taking all of the dollars based on students and our budget and dividing it equitably based on the formula. Remembering that fair isn't always equal.
right, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is not like mom.
No, no.
Okay.
Questions?
Great, very well done.
Extremely well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hopefully it answers a lot of the questions that you may have had regarding how the assessment's
So we need
developed.
in a way to explain it, because that's what we, at least in my case, I got asked a lot by
Yep.
neighbors and everybody else.
What I'd like to do is just give you, some information.
You're building a sewage treatment plant, do I
We
understand?
are.
And that's replacing an existing one?
It
or
is not. We have septic right now. The state has mandated that we go to wastewater treatment, so we are building our own.
What led you to that conclusion to build your own versus, for example, talk to Bourne about doing something?
Born to be talking to us because we do part of theirs.
Yeah, Bourne has their own issues with wastewater.
Sooner or later, they're gonna have to do one, right?
Eventually, yes, but they're doing it on this side of the canal, and we're on the other side of the canal. We explored partnering with the base, Otis, because they're installing, but we would have needed some very large pumps, because it's on the other end of the base, closest to Mashpee, so we never would have been able to pump that far.
Downhill to Falmouth?
Well, downhill to the canal would work, but
Oh, there you
it seemed to be an option.
I don't like gasoline there this morning. Why not?
Yeah.
The barge, you pick it up on the way back?
So this, what I've given you is an explanation of how they determine your minimum contribution. After you've had a chance to look at this, if somebody would like to meet with me, I'll be happy to explain it. I would imagine that Derek could also provide you with an explanation. I'm sure he has multiple copies of this. But it gives you a little bit of detail regarding what all of the factors are that they take into consideration.
Have you got a 5-year projection?
We have a 5-year plan. Included in that plan is modest growth, not significant growth in enrollment. Growth in outbuildings, primarily trying to ease the overcrowding, possibly expanding program offerings to better suit the needs of the 5-member towns based on what data we're getting from the Cape and Islands and Greater New Bedford workforce investment boards. But we're not looking, we have 350 students who apply for the 180 to 190 seats a year. We're not looking to expand to the point where we're taking all of those students. It would decimate the town high schools, and I think that would have a negative impact on so many things. It's important that there's a vibrant town high school that offers a college preparatory program, and we're an alternative. It doesn't mean that students from our school won't go to college. It's just not the focal point. We're offering some other things as well.
Of the 70% who go to college, do you know the split between 2-year and 4-year?
I don't know it off the top of my head,
Do you-
but I have
do
the
you-
data somewhere.
Do you have evaluations of how, after they've matriculated from college, what percentage of those graduate and where they are now and what their incomes are and things of that nature?
We do to some degree. We are required, because we receive Perkins funds, which are federal dollars, we're required to track our students 1 year after graduation and 5 years after graduation. The response rate on 5 years after graduation is not as good as 1 year after graduation. So it's the 1 year after graduation really doesn't give you what I think is a true picture, because all of those students are still enrolled in college when we're doing those 1 year out surveys. 5 years out gives you a better picture. I will tell you that I'm encouraged by the number of students who leave Upper Cape Tech on graduation and go into their trade. It's in the 90th percentile as far as those students who are still in the trade 5 years later. So it's a pretty good return. Those kids who leave and know they want to be plumbers, they stay plumbers.
And they stay in the area?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Many do, but that's one of the challenges that we have is the cost of living on the Cape and
Right.
trying to start out as an apprentice plumber or an apprentice electrician is
Pretty hard.
difficult to live unless you can live with mom and dad, and a lot of our students don't want to, and a lot of their mom and dads don't want them to.
In mom and dad's basement? No. What kind of incomes do the ones who don't go to college and go directly into trade have 5 years later versus those who?
Well, it depends on the industry, but most of them are in the 60,000, you know, they're 60,000.
Good middle-class jobs.
Very good middle-class jobs. I can give you an example of a young man who just graduated last year. He's a plumber. He got a job working for a plumber who does primarily work for municipalities and prevailing wage jobs. He's making $25 an hour. So if he's working 40 hours a week and not getting any overtime, you can do the math and you can see what kind of a living he's making. And I'm sure he's getting overtime. So that's one example. You know, there are some industries that pay better than others, and that's just the reality of it. But our collision repair and automotive students do very well.
Yeah.
You know, it's why we struggle to hire a teacher in the automotive industry, for example, because they're making so
Making a lot
much
of
money
money.
in the trade.
My kid does, so he's making 16 an hour, and he's only been out of school a year.
Yeah, it's the, what was I gonna say? I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, should we,
Can you use your mic, Dominic? Bring your mic down, please.
Madam Chair, do we need a motion to accept the Upper Cape?
We will need a motion at some point. Are all our questions answered? Anybody else have anything? You
I would
good?
like-
You good?
I would like
Everybody's
to
good?
make a motion that we accept the budget for Upper Cape Regional Technical Vocational High School.
Hang on 1 second.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on Article 8 to accept Article 8 with a dollar figure of, where am I?
88,000, hold on, I got it right here. Oh,
You
that's
got
just
that
the
last
increase,
number,
I'm
Jack?
sorry.
Thank you.
2,836,635.
6:35. Thank you. A motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
You know, I'm gonna have to abstain, you know, the committee did.
I don't think you
I think I
technically
have
do.
to.
Do we have a forum without you? Yes, we
Madam
do.
Moderator, or I don't know if
Do
she
we have
would
a
agree on
quorum
that.
without?
Yes, we do. We have five.
Yes, we have 5.
Then I'll abstain.
Okay,
Thank you.
make it 5-0. Thank you. That was relatively
That was
painless,
excellent.
wasn't it?
Excellent.
It
Thank
was.
This is good.
I appreciate it.
You always come well prepared, though, with all of the answers, so that's greatly appreciated.
you. Thank you for the education for a newbie. I'm gonna get it back.
My pleasure.
I remember the first time I heard it, and how does that work out? They split this, and then it's arranged by that, and my head was spinning, believe me, Joe.
I'm just trying to figure out how to explain it to grandma.
Yes,
Who
yes.
Meets you in the street and say,
Do you
"What's
have
going on?"
students who apply to Ivy League colleges?
Um,
Or, I don't
No.
mean the elite colleges or
We-
so-called elite colleges?
We do. As an example, we had a young man who graduated last year. It so happens that he took first place in Skills USA Nationals in computer programming.
Oh,
He
jeez.
is he just finished his freshman year at Tufts University on a full scholarship.
Nice.
So you do MIT and stuff?
We do have some students who are,
Wentworth.
many at Wentworth, many at Worcester Polytech, RPI, a lot of technical engineering schools. So,
The program, the starting salary for a new graduate is over $100,000 right now. And there's a shortage of them in the US.
No doubt.
Microsoft is bringing them in from all over the place. They can't get enough.
Get a girls' hockey game.
Okay, if you say so. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, well.
Thank you for arranging this education.
Okay, then. I'm gonna grab a water while Mr. Town Administrator stops sneezing. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Okay, when you get to the table, we'll go.
Same thought.
I'm for this. I can,
5 come out every time.
Have you ever read this?
How you doing, sir?
She is a wonderful author. And writes.
What are you reading?
Well, she wrote The Beans of Egypt, but this is her second book. She's written six. Take, I got it for her. It cost me $4 or whatever.
Okay,
But she
we have
writes.
Mr. Town Administrator. Is there anything you'd like to discuss first?
Nope, I think we're.
No? Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a, for any of the, really the budget items and such, we won't have any information for you. We're still looking towards, working towards a, mutually balanced budget, if you will.
Okay, I was gonna tackle that at the end, but let's just go ahead right into the meat and the potatoes of whatever's going on
Your
here.
mic on?
Yeah,
Yeah, he just can't talk, he's got a stuffed up nose. I hear the whole town hall is sick, is that it?
yep, our whole side of the building is, not doing too hot
All
right
right.
now.
So it's my understanding that the school committee did vote on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then your thought was that there would be some talk and discussion and then a decision made by the 8th of April?
You know, I obviously can't speak for them, but I believe they will be coming back on the 8th and, maybe taking another look at the budget.
I got a problem with that. I mean, if we don't have a budget to vote on by April 8th, that is our last available time to vote, before this goes to print on the 13th.
Yeah, I would say, because they have a meeting the same night, so unless you reschedule the meeting or push it a day later or something like that, we'll be out of luck to have their number. Which means we'd go with the original budgets, and it would be, I don't think that'd work out too well for the town.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think there was only one time, and that didn't go over well, I will tell you that much, that there was a budget printed and then a supplemental budget printed to be handed out at town meeting, and that did not go over well.
Afterwards?
Yeah,
Not good.
no.
On the floor, no.
It really didn't. I will play it by ear. I would hope that we'd have some sort of idea. Where is, help me to understand just a little logistically the number that's going on here
Yeah.
in how
I would love to, but
yeah.
I'm not.
Okay, I'm not understanding this issue with, you know, your balanced budget having their personnel, expenses on their side, so.
Fixed
it's-
costs.
Yeah, the fixed
Yeah.
costs over there. I mean, I was trying to figure out the math myself to see how close we were, and guess the story is what, 1.4 mil they're still apart on?
We're still, you know, we're still apart on number. I know that they will be discussing their budget, so it's, to be blunt, right now we have a requested budget and a balanced budget.
Just,
Go ahead, Joe.
can you though, I mean, in the arrangement where they take responsibility for their fixed costs,
Mm-hmm.
are those fixed cost numbers still gonna show up in the town's fixed cost, or are they gonna move down to the school?
We haven't agreed on that yet.
Oh,
Okay,
Okay.
all right. All right, we're gonna have to play that by ear. If the necessity of moving that final item to a Thursday, that might be the possibility. Instead of meeting on the 8th, we may have to meet on the 9th. I hate to push that out for Kelly, because by Friday, she needs everything. By the Friday the 10th, she needs it all. So I'm hoping that an agreement is made relatively soon. But if that last item is the only thing we have to vote on, then we may push it out to the 9th and vote on it at that time. I do not want to be voting on a budget the night of town meeting. That looks really, really, really
Pretty
bad.
bad, yes.
Okay, all right, let's move on. So as far as cleaning up regular town meeting warrant first, let me just make sure that five, your capital plan, of course, is still a work in progress?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so. And the 6th, the budget is a work in progress. And we're pulling Article 11, correct?
Yeah, we would probably vote to pass that over.
Yeah, that's gonna be passed over. All right, can I get a motion to pass over Article 11?
Pass over meaning we're not gonna.
We're not gonna take action on it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we,
We usually like.
sorry, Bob. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we pass Article 11 on the
Pass
spring
over.
town meeting. Pass over.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Get that cleared up. Where are we at? Can you explain to me Article 19? I sort of explained it, what I understood about Article 19 with the Deacon's roof and boiler. How that gets funded, if it gets funded at all?
Yeah, with it, that realistically would be an FY17 expense, and they do have the initial cost of the feasibility study that is required to be done. So they wouldn't start that feasibility study until after July 1. And if it were accepted, everything into the MSBA program, that would be something that they get reimbursed for as well.
Okay, but we wouldn't be incurring the cost until 2017, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, not the overall, because you can borrow for the whole
Okay.
item. And it'd be the borrowing less whatever the reimbursement is.
Does everybody understand that now?
No. Does that mean the engineering study doesn't start until 2017? Or
No, just paying for it.
So it gets done anyway?
It could be done anyway if you get into the MSBA program.
And so where does the money come from to pay the engineers to go do that? The state?
No, we pay for it,
We pay for it.
but then you borrow for that. So basically, with our books, you're paying for it ahead of time, but then you're actually borrowing for it.
So we're gonna have to come up with the cash in 2016 to pay for it.
You're going to have the cash no matter what. We always have several $1 million extra in cash. But as an auditing function, it wouldn't be a charge against you because you're going to borrow it, and that borrowing charge is going to be into 2017.
Okay.
Is this the $49,000?
They have no cost for it right now. They have no cost estimate.
So this is not for the engineering study, this is for the whole,
No, for the feasibility study, last night they were on there and said they had no cost estimate, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't have that. Do we need a number to vote, or at least to a town meeting? Do you need a number? You don't, because that goes out to.
This is just for the availability to apply to the
Okay, that
program.
was my understanding. Okay.
Because, Madam Chair, I believe it's been running in the 65 to 68% back from the state on these programs.
Later, though.
Yeah, I mean, we had 68% on the last one. Whether that's what it's going to be, you can't promise that.
Right, but it's been running in the 60s from the, return from the state, so.
Well, that's why I asked the cash flow, because we put the cash up front, we're gonna get it back later on from the
Well, not
state.
all of it.
But not all of
Yeah.
it, 68%,
Yeah.
so some number.
But you're going to borrow for the whole amount,
Right.
essentially for the whole amount or whatever the net difference is, depending on how the MSBA wants you to do it.
Okay. It's just hard to understand cash flow, so
Yeah.
what do we tell people?
Because really,
Needs to
Trust
get done,
us.
that's all.
what's that?
Needs to get done.
Oh, and I know that, no, that's not a question. It's the finances.
It will be borrowed, it will be borrowed,
Okay.
for the entire project in the end run, that's what it will include, the amount for the feasibility study as well.
So is 19 gonna be for the engineering, or is it gonna be for the whole deal?
The whole deal.
This is for the feasibility study.
The engineer, the first,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the $49,000 we've looked at previously.
I don't believe they gave us a number.
Well, I mean,
I thought
it
we,
was $49,000 for the high school, so it's a,
It could be completely,
Could be different.
different.
Yeah, I've never got a number at all
Yeah.
as to what, even with the feasibility study, the
so
engineering
the
study.
feasibility study lets you go out and essentially get a bid for a
Right.
contract after you figure it out.
Right, you
Right.
cannot do this, you cannot get into the MSBA program
Yeah,
without
so
Unless
due
this.
you do
diligence.
this.
So-
Do your homework first and then
Right.
you'll figure it out.
I mean, part of this doing the feasibility study program, and then if you get in there, having a clerk of the works, it usually works out much better for us. Believe me,
Yeah,
having the
yeah.
professionals doing it then,
You mentioned that.
Okay, so we all understand that now?
Feasibility.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I make a motion.
Wait a minute, we-
No,
So there's no
hold on.
cost for this feasibility study because we don't have a number.
Right, we won't know that till it goes out to bid anyway.
Okay.
Okay, feasibility we're voting on, so.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept number 19 of the spring town meeting warrant as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept Article 19, roof and boiler for the Deacon's School feasibility study. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Alright. And we're gonna go, on with the town administrator clear up some of these things. To the special town meeting warrant. Obviously, line item transfers, you don't have what you want just yet.
No, we did just receive notification from the veterans agent out of Hyannis that they will be seeking an additional $68,000, which is, absolutely terrible timing.
Oh, lovely.
So
And
we'll-
there's no way to anticipate what that's gonna be. It just seems to pop out of the woodwork sometimes.
Yeah, we talked to them on this. They've been saying that they haven't been getting reports. I guess we're working with them, making sure all the reports will be done so that this can be anticipated and they can watch the trends. This obviously means that we have more veterans coming back, whether they're 100% disabled. So I mean, obviously I have no problem paying with this. I think we should as a community. We are reimbursed 75% on it. That comes back in next year's state aid. However, it's just, trying to anticipate these increases are brutal. So we're hoping, we've had accounting speak with them, that they will receive all the reports they need and that the tracking will be better so that we can have this so it's not a April issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Article 2, which is FY15 capital.
I'm going to hold off on this. I know it's a
Yep.
bit of a pain in the neck, but let's.
So these would be items that you want to expend or purchase before the
Right.
July 1st time, okay.
Yeah, there's one of them is if you see from the harbor service permit fees, the harbor master will be seeking a
Is that a separate article?
Yeah, that's number 3.
Yeah.
So we need to transfer from that. But in the capital plan, I know that that will be for a pickup to replace the one they have for 175,000 miles.
Did
yeah.
everybody get that supplement in their email? No? Kelly sent out some additional information of some specifics that came across. And this was for Article 3. It says, our department's 2002 half-ton pickup truck is being used, has 175,000 miles, and is facing substantial mechanical repairs as well as structural frame and body rot. The amount being requested is for the first year lease payment of a 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup truck equipped with a winch system and towing package. The vehicle will also need to be outfitted with communications, emergency equipment. This vehicle will be obtained through a capital lease program where at the end of the lease, the town of Wareham retains the vehicle with no additional lease buyout payments. And this would be $20,000 transferred from Harbor Services Permit Receipts Reserved for Appropriations account. Take a big breath when you try to say that. To be transferred to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvement account. Okay, so this would be a capital purchase within his budget, I guess is the way you're doing that, or no?
Yeah, we're transferring out of the harbor service permit.
Out of the Harbor
so, yeah.
Service Permit into the Maintenance and Improvements account.
So this is one of the funds that can only be used in,
For waterfront reasons, yeah.
But
Alright,
but are we, just a clarification, we're committing to the whole lease, but we're only voting for money for the first year, is that correct?
it says,
That would be the
first
first
year's
payment.
lease payment, yes.
Yeah, so you're gonna sign a lease for the rest. Is that, can we do that?
So he would probably, because he's looking to take that 20,000, probably for the next couple of years, he will have to submit another transfer.
Yeah.
Each year, he wants to
We've
make a
done
lease
that,
payment.
that's SOPs, I mean,
Yeah.
we just do that.
Yep, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we all
I'm
understand
a
that?
newbie, I'm wearing a
So
different
it's
badge.
$20,000 a year for this lease?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Probably a
like,
3-year, probably a 3-year.
we'll have to see what you have to, whatever he's written in there, because don't forget, it's also to outfit it.
Yeah, it's
With
out
the
with
Weights, the
emergency,
electronics, all of
yeah,
it.
all of
Yeah.
that.
Good stuff
Probably
on it.
60,000 or more.
Yeah,
Or more,
easily
yeah.
on any
Yeah,
3/4 ton pickup that you want to have outfitted like that. It's not your little Toyota Tacoma.
Hey, is this the one they use to put equipment in and out of the water too?
They're going to be pulling the one they have now. I mean, they did a good job. They actually welded the frame back together to keep on going with it. But
Yeah.
the last time when they were on the highway and the brake went all the way down and wasn't popping back up, I think we figured out it's time to get a new one.
Do you all want to hear this directly from Mr. Buckminster, or
I think we can,
you understand it? We're good with this?
Yeah, I'm good with this.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Article 3 for $20,000 to be transferred from the Harbor Services Permit, receives appropriated for account to be transferred to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvement for the first year lease on a new truck?
Make a motion to accept spring meeting number 3 as written.
special town meeting, second.
Special town meeting as written.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for Article 3 for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
No leather.
Yeah, it doesn't have leather seats, right?
I didn't get that in my description here.
Air conditioning?
What are we, 6 now?
Better have air conditioning.
We could get the guy air conditioning.
They don't
all
make
right.
them without air conditioning anymore.
He's one of the services in town that actually makes money.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
No, I mean, he does, he does good.
I know.
He does really good.
We're dotting the i's and crossing the t's. We're not
Article 4, to establish tax title revolving fund. And you emailed me back that the maximum amount on the fund is $100,000.
Yeah, and then if you see in Article, was it 4 in the annual? That's the revolving account.
Yep,
That will be added to that revolving account.
afterwards.
Right. Well, we're going to have to Yeah, for the actual
So
article.
we'll have to get this passed first and then add it to that one?
Correct, yeah, so if it
Okay.
passes through this one, it'll be added to that. I've put it, I gave Kelly a copy with it put in there, so we can put that in the appendix.
Okay. So this is for, can you just give an idea of what's the reason for doing this, so that we don't have to, I mean, what's,
Yeah, right now we use the attorney's fees, the legal fees for going through land court and such, and the redemption fees. They are paid, basically we have an agency account. So we don't pay the attorney up front. It's when either the properties get redeemed or we sell them through tax title that we get the fees back. But you have what's essentially called an agency fund that just holds it and puts it out, which really isn't the cleanest way to do it. So this is the act that's established where you can have the tax title revolving funds and use it for such things. And then if there is actually extra revenue in there that you can use for the next year, you can use that to go after more properties and such. So this is, I think this is a win for us. We saw how successful last auction was for the town, getting things back on the tax roll. If you see, actually, it's 3 Main Ave in Onset. It was just it was a lot with a deep hole in the ground. Now there's a house on there. It's a beautiful house, and so it was sold and somebody bought it. So it's really, you know,
Good deal.
yeah. Unless they have 4 kids in the school system, that's not so good.
What's that?
Unless they have 4 kids in the school system, then we lost in the end.
Special needs.
Over 55, over 55, remember that, got the
So
sign.
where it is now in that fund that it is now, it's now going into this new tax title revolving fund, this $100,000. That's
Right.
what's sitting over here and is now.
No, that's the max. When it's a revolving fund, that gives you a ceiling. So there's no money in it in the
Okay.
beginning. So as we redeem properties, so which means we've put somebody in land court. We started the foreclosure process. They're going to pay off the attorney fees and all the legal fees. That gets deposited into the revolving fund,
Okay.
and then we can pay out of that to the attorneys and such.
And it's got a ceiling of 100,000.
100,000. So.
How come?
You have to have a ceiling on there. We looked at 100,000 because with the way some of the fees are and such, even if you do about $1 million worth of the tax title, sales and property, you're probably really only going to hit 40 or 50,000 in some of the fees on there. So, and then if you reach the ceiling and it goes over, that goes into the general fund. So, you're also limited on how much you can have for revolving of funds. It's 10% of your tax levy base. So for us, $3.3 million and such. So or 1% for whichever department it is.
So then that will go back and the next year you'll use that to go.
Yeah, you
back.
can pay it out and you can keep on just paying out. Sometimes it's just a pure wash on it, especially for all the funds. But the agency account is really just, you have a holding account. It's not, I don't like it. It's just not the cleanest way for it to be done either, so.
Anybody, any other questions on this? Entertain a motion for approval on Article 4.
I make a motion that we, thank you, Bob, sorry, I make a motion that we, vote favorable action on Springtown meeting warrant number 4 as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of Article 4 for a revolving account for tax title collection, maximum of $100,000. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. Article 5, the Health Insurance Trust Fund. I emailed you asking about what was going to be the money,
Mm-hmm.
and your answer is the audit won't be completed until mid-April, so why is this even on this? All right.
Because that's, we're gonna be finished up by mid-April, so you need it to be done.
Okay. So we're not gonna have a number until what?
You're probably right before town
Before
meeting.
town meeting?
Yeah. So we're projecting that we'll have a little bit of surplus in the health line.
Okay.
If you remember from the audit report, it was recommended that we do an audit of the health trust fund. If we have, let's say we have $200,000 left in the health line within our budget, and we need funds within the health trust fund, that's my recommendation that we transfer it in there before the end of the fiscal year. So that's why
Okay,
we
so
have,
basically whatever is going to be that surplus in that line is what you intend to transfer?
could be, depending on how the audit comes out.
Okay.
You know, we couldn't schedule the audit any sooner, and actually it works out well because we basically stopped putting the health insurance money back in October when we transferred over to the Mayflower Municipal Health Insurance Group, but there's still some runouts and such, so having it through April is actually a little bit better. And then that's essentially for the Plymouth County OPEB trust. If we don't need as much money from that health line, I'd recommend that we start funding the OPEB trust line, even if it's just $25,000, let's say. That also will help completely eliminate any finding on the audit as well. So that's why we have them as placeholders. I know that it's,
Yeah, okay. So these two items are really gonna be both contingent on the health trust audit.
correct.
Hopefully we've got, I can't say hopefully, because, you know,
No, you're confident you're gonna have it by the audit, because that was what you,
Well,
it's
that's
an
what,
audit item anyway, right?
that's
Right.
what, yeah.
so we're gonna transfer that over, if you feel like you don't need all of it to go to the health trust, you wanna
Right.
put it into the OPEB.
Yeah.
So it's all,
Is there a second alternative as to how you wanna fund the OPEB, or is that really the only?
That would be the
only-
main way. I mean, we could even look at using, if there was any money left in the reserve fund from the finance committee managers, we could use some of that as well, but that's not really an emergency.
No.
But it's, we're going to be tight on the budget this year. Yeah, there'll be a little bit of surplus in some departments, but everybody's pretty tight, and
So those are probably gonna be, these two items are probably gonna be, last minute, after print votes at this point. I would, now we're doing this, we're either gonna approve or not approve the articles, and it's not a matter of not taking, we can't take any action on this right now. All right, well, we'll leave it to
If
the
we-
last minute, but I'll try to write something up
You
in
might have s-
preparation for that.
when you talk about April 9th, maybe there'll be something then. If not, we're gonna have to do it
Right,
on the eve.
right, but I need to get something to Kelly as our explanation of how it would be funded if it did. But then
Yeah,
we'll
right.
we'll take a vote probably last minute on that. All right, let's see what else we can clean up here. All right, the police union, you said there, I thought you said there was, you settled, but you haven't, what? Go on.
they need to vote upon it.
Oh, and when's that gonna happen?
It's up to them right
Oh.
now. So I'm hoping they would do it any day now.
So okay, so you'll get a number to us when you have a number.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that. Let's see, all right. Article 8, let's do Article 8 and 9 together. What I thought was strange was that this was inserted by you rather than the cemetery commissioners. I did look it up in the old, warrants, and that 90,000 was for the garage that was falling down.
Right.
So what was the status with the garage?
They haven't repaired it. The cemetery commissioners believe that purchasing this land is more important than fixing that garage right now.
Okay, so that was the situation, there is there's land available to expand the cemetery at Agawam.
Correct.
So by not doing the garage and, rescinding the 90,000 on the garage, and then the 20,000 left over from, the 32,000 that was appropriated, that gives them the 170,000 to purchase this land.
And that will leave, I don't have the exact surplus number, I apologize for that. It will leave funds in that account then.
Enough to purchase?
You'll have if you purchase the 170,000 out of there, there would still be funds within the account. It doesn't take it down to zero.
Do you know why this land became available, and
It's been, my understanding is it was purchased a while ago. Somebody tried to subdivide it, doesn't seem to be working out. The original purchase price for this property was 350,000. So the town being able to get it for 170 would be excellent. And that is, that's below the assessed value as well.
and then it becomes a cemetery, so I'm gonna be devil's advocate over here, is what happens to our loss of, tax or ability to tax that land, or,
You know, we'll lose some of the cost on that. So, you know, you gotta figure unfortunately, the raw land in town isn't exactly taxed very high. So this, you're probably looking at the, what are we, about 1104, so it'd be about maybe $1,800.
If they sell it and put a house on it, then it's a different deal.
Right, if they could develop it and put a house on it, so.
But I think, excuse me, Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead.
through you, I believe that it turned out that they couldn't, that's why he's selling it.
There's issues with the
Yeah,
development
right.
of it, so.
It couldn't, they tried to get the permits and to do everything, Tom, but it fell apart, so
Can you bring
it's
your
almost like
So it's
almost like non-billable now.
Yeah, but
you know?
it's been, I mean, we've been in a rather depressed period, and we're coming out of a depressed period, so who's saying what's could happen in the next 2 to 3 years, and we don't need cemetery lots.
No, I
We
don't
do,
think,
we're running out of land on that one. This is one of the things we do, so. And that's where if you're saying, well, if you're going to spend 170 out of the lots and graves account, you're actually creating a new market to sell out of there. You're expanding what they can actually sell.
What's the
So,
estimate of what we're gonna run out of the current? at the
I
selling
don't have
rate?
that from them.
That would be the key, as to when you're gonna run out.
yeah, but the key is though, it's not buildable. That's
Yeah,
why
then-
he's selling it at a lower rate. He's already tried to get permits and everything, and it fell apart.
Yeah, but you get it for 50. I mean, if it's not
Well,
buildable, it's not worth anything.
Well, how much
Whatever.
land is it?
A couple acres, isn't
3
Oh.
acres, maybe, 2.5 acres?
No, it's gonna be, oh shoot.
I thought it was more than that.
You
Yeah,
get
it is.
You
It's a
get
good
it for
chunk of.
25.
Get me in there, I'll buy it cheap.
We've
So-
got it.
pretty much, Article 9 is contingent on
remember.
rescinding Article 8.
Right.
So we'll have to remember
Yeah, you have to do
that
8
part.
first.
8 has to come before 9.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion if you would like.
Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we make approval for the Springtown meeting, Article 8, to rescind the 90,000 for the repair of the garage.
And the 20,000 for the other.
Right, how,
Expansion.
as so written.
Okay, I have a motion to approve Article 8, to rescind the 90,000 and the 20,000 that was previously appropriated.
Have you gone to look at the building that they're not gonna repair?
It's ugly. I
Don?
go
Yeah,
by
the
it
roof
every
fell
day.
in, it's just not being used, it just.
I drove by it the other day,
The roof is still there, just
the
ugly.
roof
as
isn't
hell.
filled in, it's a cinder block
Cinder
building.
block
but
building, it's ugly.
It just is, it's sitting there.
I thought the back had an issue, no? I could be wrong.
I have no
The
idea.
salt barn is,
It's just has victim of deferred maintenance.
Are they
Again.
gonna come back next year for money to demo that building?
they haven't said that. I don't know. They can come back to you for anything.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but
Just-
that money stays in its own account.
All right, that you
They
can't
don't
use it
come
for
to
anything
town to get
else.
money, it comes out of their own
Aren't
accounts.
they gonna use it to buy land is what they're
It's
saying?
one of those
isn't it?
eyesores.
Right, but then there'll be more money in the account from selling graves, so their account goes up and down.
So,
No, the building is an eyesore, so if you're not gonna fix it, knock it down and get rid of it.
Well, that's up to them, that's not up
That's,
to us.
that's not for us to say.
I know, I just,
if they're
I have to look
prior,
at it every day.
if they are prioritizing what they think is the better thing to do,
Right, well, the thing to look at is, this land is abuts the cemetery. You're not gonna have this opportunity anymore. You'd have to get another cemetery elsewhere. So to buy land that abuts it, makes all the sense in the world. I mean,
It just seems like a lot of money if it's what I'm thinking of, 2 house lots at 85,000 apiece for, I don't think a house lot facing a cemetery really goes for that much.
I know the guy, he bought it for how much,
Went
300
for
some thousand?
350.
He bought it
Wow.
for 350.
He shouldn't have done that.
Well, he did.
huh?
Nice quiet
Nice
neighborhood.
quiet neighbors. I have a motion on the floor.
I need a second. At least give me a second, you can vote it down, guys, just give me a second here, so we can move on.
I'll second.
Thank you,
I have a
Marlon.
motion and a second for approval of Article 8 to rescind these prior actions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Is that 5-1?
510, okay. Then going to, I make a motion, Madam Chair, for Springtown meeting, Article 9, as written, to purchase the land.
I have a motion for approval of Article 9 for $170,000 to purchase land adjacent to the Agawam Cemetery. Do I have a second? You can second for discussion.
I would like to second for discussion.
Second
you
for
go,
discussion. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay. The 170,000, the 90 and the 20, of course, brings us up to 110. Where's the other?
It's in their account.
It's in that
It's in
account.
their account already, okay.
Yeah. There's more money in that, I'm not gonna say that whole
Actually,
thing.
it's quite, actually, I think it's a pretty, decent account. And I don't know the exact number, Marilyn, but it's a pretty decent account. But the thing is, that money, they can only spend it for cemetery stuff.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't go into the general, it doesn't go into anything, it just sits there, and it's have a great balance for a long time. So you might as well use it, either you're gonna, fix the buildings, buy land, you're gonna do something with it. All these dead people have been paying for it, might as well use their money.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the Article 9 Agawam Cemetery expansion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
So that would be,
520.
what was it again?
420.
420. Okay.
Okay, moving on. Article 10 is a request for legislation to request another liquor license for 167 Onset Avenue in Onset. And I'm told that's the hotel which used to be the old Stonebridge Inn.
Yeah, the one that the Slurls have purchased, they've redone it. So they're looking to open that up in April, I believe, April 2016. So this would, by going for the legislation now, by the time everything gets passed, they'll be all set for the opening.
There was a liquor license, there was a bar in there anyways.
There was, yeah,
There
the old
was.
tiki bar and stuff
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
But they've torn all that other section outside down, am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
So they want to just operate the inn from inside. Now,
Yeah.
is that, the people who owned that, they bought the land, they bought the building next door too, right? Between where the pool was?
2 buildings there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's it's one big lot with everything on there now, pretty much.
There's a
Oh,
building
okay.
to the, there's a building to the left that they
Yeah.
used for like a, function room type of bar. Then
Yeah.
there was the pool with the tiki
Yes.
bar.
Yeah.
Then there's the old structure that's there.
Okay.
And the Salernos, they've been doing good. They do pretty good in town.
Well, I
They
mean,
run
I
a
don't
good
care.
business. I know, they run a good business,
It's
so.
just good for business, but
Yeah.
I know everybody's gonna ask, well, who is that? That's what it is.
Yeah, they've put a lot of money in there. It looks great what
Yeah.
they've done with the,
And they're decent business
they
people.
make
They
it.
know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a restaurant and a working inn? Is it gonna be rooms for rent and all that as
I
well?
believe, yeah, working in, we'll have a big restaurant section in there so
Nice.
So this will
Yeah.
bring in meals tax.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
Do you feel like the liquor license will increase the value of the property, or?
Well, I mean,
Make it
you
work.
really don't own the liquor license at the end of the day, so they can't really sell it or anything, but it's, obviously it would make a restaurant work better and such.
Yeah, no, the money's in the bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's an experienced operator, too.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. You got the place right down the street, so you're right. Madam Chair, I
Right,
make,
Tom.
I would move to favorable action on
Second.
number 10.
I have a motion for approval of Article 10 for the additional, request for the additional liquor license.
You have a second?
In a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay. We're moving right along here. We did the Oakdale Playground, we're good with that.
12 is just housekeeping, correct?
Yeah, go ahead, Derek, this is
Yeah,
just,
this is, when we're authorized to borrow, if we don't use the whole amount, we obviously don't borrow it, but that's a liability against us because what's been voted. So you just rescind the authorization and it reduces that liability off of our books.
Do we need a number on that, or?
those numbers are right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to, for favorable action on number 12 of the Springtown meeting as written.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of Article 12 to rescind prior year bond authorization, and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right, Article 13, Allen Street, and as I even emailed you, I don't even know where Allen Street is.
It's in the Swiss
I remember
area.
doing this, and I can't even remember why they did this.
They thought that they could get a better price off of going through a 30B process on it. They did sell it off. I believe the person that owned the property next to it purchased it for $130,000 and then promptly just defaulted on the purchase. So we would have kept whatever they had to put up for it. You know, I can't think of the word right now. But when you go to the auction, you have to put down the $10,000 bond or something like that. So we kept that, but it's never been done again. So we'd like to bring it back. It should have I'm not gonna say should have, but it's not the most proper way. It should have stayed as tax title because that's what it was a tax title property. We'll bring this in and do it as part of our tax title auction.
Where
So
is Allen Street? I mean, is this a big piece of property?
No, it's a small piece of property, but it's waterfront, salt waterfront.
Oh, I see.
So
I
we,
see, now I
so
got
they-
the motivation now.
so they lost
I
their
got it.
deposit on the auction, correct, Eric?
Correct,
So we
yeah.
made the money on the auction.
They had a
Now we
couple
want to
bucks.
resell it again because they didn't come up with the money.
Yeah, and that was a few years ago, and just nothing's ever happened with
Yeah,
it.
right.
So we want
Clean it
Why
up.
let it
move
sit
on
there?
it.
I hear you.
So we haven't had like somebody promoting it since then and trying to resell it?
No, and actually, we want to go through the whole process to determine the buildability of it as well, because that will make it just more attractive.
All right, so wait a minute, I'm still a little confused.
So it's,
It's 2 lots. It's 18 and 20 Allen Street.
All right, so when you talk about it going back into tax title, how is it that, how,
We took it for tax title.
You took it from tax title, so
Oh,
we're just
right.
Took
basically.
it, then we put it up for
Gotcha.
auction.
right?
and the
so-
guy
People
didn't,
put down the
Got
down
ya.
payment, they lost it.
All
There
right,
you
that's
go.
where I was confused. I'm thinking there's
So
still an owner
and we
involved,
just
but it's
haven't done
already been
anything with it.
taken
Right.
in tax title.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the town owns it.
so
the
the
town
goal is
owns
to
it.
get it back in and sell it and
Yeah,
then
get it back in
get some
the
tax revenue out of it.
hands of the treasurer
Amen.
collector. Yep.
That's the
sell it.
magic word for us, tax revenue.
Yep,
Okay,
it's,
so that's understandable.
I make a motion
I make a
to,
motion.
oh,
You've
go
done
ahead,
them all.
go ahead,
I'll
go
do
ahead.
one.
Go ahead, do it.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve Article 13 as written.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of Article 13, to return Allen Street property to tax title, and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right, number 14 was the generator. And it was quickly explained to me by somebody here who said they knew what was going on. That the generator here, no, the generator at the police station is operable enough to run the elevator here, but we need to buy a new one for the police station.
Originally, there was a authorization to purchase a new generator for this building. We'd always believed that it was a borrowing authorization, but it was funded. It was true cash. So now the generator here is strong enough to take care of the police station. So we want to purchase the new generator for this. That needs to be done over here, that we can get for a cheaper price now than when this was first authorized. Install that, then take the generator here, that's fairly new, it's just not strong enough to, when everything goes out, to bring the elevator to the top floor. Bring that over to the police station, put it in the police station, outfit it over there, which will adequately run the police station. It's actually just doing things smartly, rather than purchasing two separate generators.
What's
So-
this generator they just put in down here? Is that it?
Which one? What?
It looks like one by the parking lot, that it looks like a new generator down there.
I don't think we installed a new generator. I'd be shocked if we did.
Oh, when you go out tonight, look at that.
It's here, he's talking about here. You put one here, right, doesn't do the elevator, I thought.
Yeah, you're talking about right now or just recently or something? Or,
Looks pretty new to me.
I don't think we.
Is there one out there, normally, a generator?
Yeah,
By the
we-
parking lot?
Tom, you'd have to show me. You've
Sitting
got
in the
you've
middle
got me
of the parking
flummoxed.
You that big box over here to the right between here and the basketball
Maybe
court?
Amazon's drone put it in the wrong place.
That's one hell of a
I
drone.
think that's just an electrical trend.
Listen, Tom, if somebody dropped off a generator by accident, let's stop talking about it. I'm gonna take it.
So what you're saying is, this isn't, we don't even need to borrow, we've already encumbered this 130,000, which was the original amount here with the chipper and everything else.
Right.
So that money is still sitting,
The chipper was expended. The
Yep.
70,000 for the generator still exists. So basically, we're changing the language to add in the
Okay.
police station as well.
Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Go ahead
One
now.
question. So you said the new generator, is it gonna cost the whole 70,000?
No, it won't. The whole amount should be with the generator, plus the cost of outfitting both should be right around the $70,000. So,
Okay,
try and use the funds wisely.
very good. I'm glad you go like through our books and, find all these little things that just sit there.
Yeah, you try and find some neat stuff out there.
Yeah.
But this was one from capital planning, which was great. They stuck to it. So
Good. Okay, so everybody understand that one? Any other questions on that? No? I'll entertain a motion on Article 14.
Make a motion, favorable action on the special town meeting number 14 as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion for approval of Article 14, to include the words "and police station," upgrade of a generator. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? I'm getting tired. And the last one here. I actually emailed,
Mr. Holmes?
No, I didn't. I emailed the chairman of the Board of Selectmen on this item. I understood, your explanation on the amendment of the junk dealer bylaw. I absolutely understood your explanation on that, but I thought where it was inserted by the Board of Selectmen that they might actually want to present it to us for an explanation. But he was unavailable, but thought somebody else might be able to attend, but obviously that didn't happen. Do we all understand what they're trying to do here?
I have an awful lot of concerns about changing the
Okay,
charter.
what are your concerns? Maybe the town administrator can answer some of your questions.
Well, my first recommendation is we do this when David's here, because David has got some experience that I think can weigh in on this, that we should understand it. My concerns are threefold. One is we're going after the charter, which a lot of people worked on, and I was thinking about our discussion about gas stations and so forth at the fall meeting, and there were limits put on things, and those limits are there for a reason. So I think those things ought to be only changed with a lot of thought. 25 sounds like way too much, even to increase it. The second one, the second concern is the concern about where these are all located, and I really would like to hear where he found all these things and where they're located in town and so forth. My sense from the discussion there is they're on a certain section of the Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, probably in a building that, if you look at that building, you can question it's kind of what it does for the town. I will say that I have personal experience in dealing with trying to attract and moving a large operation. I initially, in one of my career moves, went and tried to, I had a 900-person, $500 million a year business in a town very much like Wareham, that had one very nice building that looked like what the medical buildings look like, connected to the two original buildings that we bought, which were not very good. One of them was, leaked like a sieve. It was an old 1950s building, and another one had been added on, looked like a 1950s Holiday Inn, totally unusable. Went to the president of the company and said, I need $50 million to take those down and put two buildings right next to each other. And in the process, he looked at me and said, I'll give you $50 million, but not there. The agricultural community that had no zoning or no anything else like that. He introduced me to LaSalle Real Estate Consultants, who are the leader in the United States of advising people where to put sites, what to do, how areas get developed, what goes first, what gets the highest return, and so forth. And I learned a hell of a lot from that experience, a hell of a lot. I ended up actually building 10 miles away where I could keep the 900 people because I didn't want to lose any of them, but built in an area that would support what ended up to be a $150 million a year, $150 million business.
Nice.
One of the things you learned from it was Wareham is sitting in the catbird seat. The most desirable areas are exits of interstate highways. And the junctions of interstate highways are even a bigger premium on that. We have the junction of an interstate highway. We have 3 exits on that highway. But if you're going to go in and you're going to capitalize and attract growth, and I think one of the things I wanted to get with you is to understand that if I look at added growth, that is our main driver of getting ourselves out of this mess. We've got to have, and in fact, went back and I looked at since the magic word of receivership is now floating around again, I looked at Chelsea's history. And the receiver did 2 things right away, besides clean up the mess, and which we actually are doing an awful lot of those things. But the other thing he did was go in and bring in added growth very quickly. And that's how Chelsea got out of their mess and got to be one of the receive awards as a top city. Wareham's problem, and I know that if I rode through Wareham with the same consultants that I searched for with my friends at LaSalle would take one look at the key building that's sitting on Cranberry Highway with a sign on it that says storage space or square footage $2 to $6, and on the other end is something that looks like the bombed out remnants of a World War II structure, and totally eliminate the town. Our problem is we're not focusing on what we look like to somebody like myself in that role, running around with $150 million in my pocket, looking for a place to put it. And it wouldn't be here. It can't be here. The last thing we need for any kind of growth is to allow more, quote, junk shops and things like that. In fact, the best thing that would happen is we really got focused and do what the fire department did to that part of Cranberry Highway already, and put big red X's on a lot of things so that we begin to get rid of them. The rumor is, I haven't verified this, is that building is owned by somebody who doesn't even live in Wareham. They don't even live in the United States. That's the definition of a slum landlord. That building is the kind of building you see in a slum. And so that would be the recommendation to anybody who wants to put up a retail center, office building, major housing project, or anything else like that. They're going to be told to stay away. And the worst thing we can do is go off and do this kind of thing for this town at this point in its life. Because, like you say, you use the receivership word, and it's an interesting one. I have to admit, I've thought about it. I don't think we have to do it. I think we're dying a slow death, but we're able to pay our bills. You couldn't do it now, and so forth. So I personally would like to have a real good session with the Board of Selectmen about why you would even consider this, and why aren't we spending more attention. The key development for the town right now is 28 between I-95 and Route 58. It is ideal for a business because you basically can get good access and so forth. So we should be spending time on that. And then we're looking at East Wareham, where these junk shops, I believe, are located and so forth, and say, how are we going to clean up that? We as a town have got to ask ourselves a question, like, how come our Stop and Shop is not in a new format? They remodeled all the rest of their Stop and Shops, or most of them. Ours is still the old format. And how come they bought a whole mess of land right on the Bourne Rotary? What are the odds that they may pull out of that shopping center? We have to find that, and they'll tell us they won't.
They own the building.
Who cares? They'll sell it.
Okay.
You know, I learned, I mean, it
I
was
believe you.
a
I just
shock,
said
it
they
was a
own the
shock to my
building, yeah.
company. It's a Fortune 20 company at the time. It was a shock to find out how much a lot of our real estate was worth. If you've been up in Waltham and looked at the corner of the intersection of 128 and Winter and Wyman Streets, we owned the building that overlooked the reservoir. Another acquisition, another one where we put a beautiful building on it. That was the most valuable site we had in the United States, more valuable than our headquarters in Palo Alto, California. We sold it to Dassault. It is now a gorgeous building housing software engineers, the ones who make $100,000 and some odd thousand a year a pop. So I look at this, and the third area that I'm really concerned about is we talk a lot about all the folks and how they're suffering in the town, and they are. That's quite frankly the reason my wife and I moved here, because she wants to be involved with helping people like that. But I think sometimes we forget about all those homeowners who are footing the bill and paying the taxes and so forth, and losing value in their houses while we're doing this. And you know, I just think about my barber who basically wanted to retire. His asset was his house in Wareham. He sold it to move to Florida. He could have gotten more money for it, probably had a little bit better retirement. I got a neighbor who basically, husband just died. She wants to sell a house and move to Plymouth. Why? Because they have housing, nice housing for middle-class 55-year-old plus people that are all over the place, which we don't have. I mean, you look at AD Makepeace, I mean, they spent tens of millions of dollars on a development in Plymouth that should have been here. But they're right to say, not a good place to invest. And again, it's over 55, no kids, people with money. Boston is the 6th most wealthy city in the United States, measured by people who make over $150,000 a year. Massachusetts is the 5th wealthiest state in the union. And there's a whole mess of people up there that are ready to retire. I worked with a lot of them that are looking for a place near the ocean, an hour from Boston, an hour from Boston, an hour from Providence, an hour from the Cape Cod National. So this place could be really something. But we got to start by saying, we don't want more junk. We don't want buildings that look like slums. You drive down 28, and I'm not blaming this company for what its appearance is, but when you see an auto dealership with a chain link fence with barbed wires around their inventory, what does that tell you? Crime. You see those in South Chicago. We shouldn't be seeing them in Wareham. They should be able to take that down. Our police department really has to go after and do the thing. So to me, this is a line in the sand. We got to decide who we're going to be. This answers your question, what do you want to be? And I still think, Derek, that is a great question that the town has to decide. And to me, you don't do this kind of stuff. And I know that the reason I thought David actually worked on a lot of engineering projects and has done things like this all over the place, and I think probably could add some experience of what goes on when people make large decisions. And I think, I really am positive about the fact that if we all work together, we can turn this into something. We can answer your question. But we got to watch what we do.
It's one of the few times that I would, and it's up to the pleasure of the committee, but if this was motivated by one or more members of the Board of Selectmen, I really think that if they're seeking the Finance Committee's approval of something that they're perpetuating, they should come and explain it to us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay?
Can we invite him next week, Madam Chair?
Yeah, I will re-email the entire Board of Selectmen and just, even just one of them as the proponent wants to at least give us their motivation.
I think it was
for-
put in by Steve Holmes.
That's what I read in the paper, but I just wanted to make sure, what their reasoning is for this, and whether the pros and cons, good or bad, as to one way or the other. I'm not gonna make a judgment call on who's doing what, as far as, specific, property and that situation. The fact is, from what I read, is that there are junk shops already operating right now that have been here for quite some time without any licensing.
Right.
So, either
He
you
doesn't
allow
wanna
the
close them
license.
down. He wants to give the
Right.
opportunity to get a license.
But that's not that is not what the article says either.
Right.
Okay, so I would like to hear that out of, I love you, Dominic,
No,
and I understand you,
I'm not for it either, to be honest with you.
you believe the motivation, but I think I'd like to hear that from
Yeah,
them
I agree
directly
with you, Madam Chair. I agree
as
with
to
you
what their
wholeheartedly.
intention is.
I
I'm just,
agree with you.
I agree, I want to hear it. I'm telling you, explaining why I would come from where I came from.
Yep,
You need to understand
so
that.
we'll leave that one table aside
What you
at
said
the
was nice.
moment.
That's good.
So that cleans up what we can do with the Springtown meeting warrant. I do want to just jump back to Article 20, which is the fire suppression system article. I don't know, did everybody get the email from David about getting some information from Inspectional Services? I have not gotten that. Is there any way you can motivate that in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I didn't receive the email. What's the request?
We're looking for the understanding of, with this adoption of the fire suppression systems in, boarding houses and lodging houses?
Boarding and lodging houses, right? It's 26H.
Yeah, the fire chief, the Wareham fire chief was reluctant to speak on behalf of Inspectional Services. As to the enforcement of this, we'd like to have his opinion, where we stand right now, that there aren't any operating in town as we speak, but what is his opinion? Does he have a strong opinion on having this in his retinue to be able to enforce this law? Or does he not see the necessity of it?
do you wish to have them in front of you or written?
Whichever he would, if he wants to forward his opinion by email, that would be fine.
Okay.
And I didn't have a chance to talk to the onset fire chief. He did return my call. He gets up very early in the morning. And I'm not awake. Then I called him back, and he wasn't there. And they won't give me his personal number, so I'm okay with it. But I will reach out again and try to call him and just see if I can get him to, email us what his opinion is, so you guys can at least get both sides of that story.
Did you see, I mean, I've got all the 26s, so you could see. what
Yes,
they-
I
what-
did.
what
I
they all
actually,
relate
anybody
to.
peruse that?
It was,
Yeah, the whole thing. We
All
can
of-
make copies of it.
All of the item
all of the
26s?
26s? Because motels, hotels.
Everything is
26A,
included
B,
in
C,
there.
D, E, I got them all.
Right,
All right,
everything
yeah.
was included in there, because we were throwing a lot of questions at the chief about, well, are you talking about this, are you talking about that, blah, 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 blah. This is just to include lodging houses and boarding houses specifically, that we hadn't adopted as part of our law. And that's what he wishes to do. Everything else is pretty much included.
Madam Chair, I thought we also asked how many were operating in town now.
And he said none, but he couldn't speak for the onset fire chief. And that's where I just want to get clarification that there are none that the onset fire chief is aware of.
So
I
we're
don't believe
adopting
that
a
there
law.
are any licensed for.
There are no licensed ones, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
That's why the inspector came up,
Yes.
as he was the one, I guess it's just when, they're supposed to put go in for a permit and all that stuff. The health inspector seems to be someone also who could pick up on it. What concerned me about the laws is they never mentioned the inspector being part of the process. It was all within the whole municipality and then the state fire marshal.
Right, it gives them the right to
Gives
walk
them a
into
lot
the
of rights.
building and stuff like that, which is what the chief had said, that in residences, remember he said that he doesn't have the right to just walk into a residence.
I wasn't clear about that. When I read that, I was concerned about the language
Right,
that
but
kind of
if it
said.
becomes that sort of a business where it has a permit, then that gives him a better foot to stand on to be able to go in and make sure that the safety precautions are all
I
there.
thought he kept saying, though, the inspector was the one who would
Would be
initiate that.
enforced.
They would
Yeah.
call the fire department, right? The
Right.
General
See,
public could, like, inspectional services could call the fire chief and say, we think there's a problem here,
You
that
bring
gives
your
them the
mic
right.
now, I know you think you're
I
on.
hate that, that gives them, that gives them the right to go in,
Right,
so he needed that kind of power.
so
Yeah,
we'll
there's
get,
been a change on certain things that used to be inspected by the fire department, now by, there was basically I'm gonna butcher this, but there was a fight between the inspectional services, I'm not talking about in here, but I'm talking about
In the state?
statewide, and the fire from the state, and it looks like either the inspectional services won or lost, because now they have to start doing some inspections on it. It used to be the fire.
It's true, it'd be interesting. I didn't look at the inspection service laws in the state,
Yeah.
because we just referred us to the fire department one, but
Right.
it never mentioned the inspection service at
well,
all.
oh, you can get a lot of that stuff, I'm sure. You want my set of, law books that,
No, that's,
who gave you those
Google.
law books? You can have those.
I do just in time, I use Google whenever the question
Well, I
comes
do
up.
too. That's how I got it, and he thought my copy was better than his. All right, do you have anything else or any other information you'd like us to know about?
Nothing intelligent.
Would you like to partake anything unintelligent?
This time either, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
While you're still here, though, we are required by charter, oh, and by the way, I just want to correct you on something you just said about this junk thing, that it's not the charter, by the way, it's the bylaws.
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 Okay, just so you realize, we're not messing with the charter, it's a bylaw. We are required to have a public hearing before town meeting. Okay? And I know Madam Moderator isn't here, but I can't keep putting this off. So I thought what would be best, and I believe last year we did this, we did a mock town meeting, we did our public hearing and then mock town meeting just before town meeting. So why don't we should have everything done the week of the 10th, even if we meet on the 8th or the 9th, depending what happens with the budget. That will give us, the warrant will go to print and we'll have a week off. So if we want to do the public hearing on the 22nd and have our mock town meeting on that 22nd? Does that sound like a plan to everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Where's the calendar?
Yeah, it's right
Oh, here it is.
I have a little one, so. But I have to get that picked out, and then that has to be published, so we need to we have to set that date. Does that work for everybody? And I'll email Madam Moderator and see if that's good with her?
Yep.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll set that as our public hearing.
We'll do it here again.
Yeah, I think that worked out really well. So we'll set that as our public hearing and mock town meeting, okay? Check these things off. Okay, I think we're good with you. If you wanna go, you sound like you need to go nighty-night.
I just can't kick it.
Echinacea.
What?
Echinacea.
Florida.
Well, that would work.
That was beautiful.
Cayenne pepper and brandy.
That was beautiful.
Zycam, I'm really a fan of Zycam too, by the way. I'd go to Florida too, but Zycam, try Zycam.
Try Zycam. It's like Sonia Wench's voice in the box right there. It's all right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask Derek a question?
Sure.
Can I use that copy machine in the school committee office? Well, it's school committee, it's the school superintendent's office, the one that's near the elevator?
Is it open?
Yeah, I think it's open.
If you don't tell them, I'm sure it's fine.
They'll bill
Just don't let
us.
them charge us.
They'll bill us.
All right, so, let's keep moving along and then we can get the rest of
I'm gonna
this done.
copy all of this, that's all about that fire. I have it all, I have the whole law.
Regular one, because now I'm all messed up.
You can't do it. You just come by my store and you can do it.
Well, I
Yeah.
can do it at home, but I figured
No.
do it now. Get rid of it.
Admits we don't have any properties.
Okay, so I can remember what I got.
Yeah, I was wondering why only 1/3 of the towns accepted.
Madam Chairman,
It's so wonderful, and everyone.
Go ahead. What? Yeah, go ahead.
Curve here, you know?
I think they're building their resumes.
Let's sign these and get these out of here.
So I like what you said, very well put.
Yeah, I just worry about it because it
You know, I think Steve's heart's in the right place. He doesn't want the businesses to close, but they're working without licenses.
You know what do I do? You didn't hear this from me.
All right. Okay. All right, we need to write some recommendations. This one, you can pull that up from. Okay, so we'll skip that one. You can pull that up from the old one? Okay. Yeah, that's yours back. I gave it back. Okay, that one you can, I know you're just gonna paste it. You can paste that from an old one. All right, I will do the recommendation as to why we're passing this over.
I just don't like 25 licenses and they'll decide later how to do it.
And I'll do this.
Yeah, I think the numbers, I think the numbers too many, but I think we need more.
Huh? Yeah, I'll try to,
No, he was one of the five originally.
I'm all set, yeah.
He's not a newbie.
I need somebody to do the, recommendation for, where am I? Upper Cape Regional, Article 5, approval of that. Do I have a volunteer
I mean, the right,
to write the recommendation? You're gonna write the recommendation, Jeff, for that one? Okay, that was for the Upper Cape Regional. That cleans that up. All right, now for the special town meeting. Do you want an opposing opinion on the Agawam Cemetery? Mr. Tom?
Sure, and. how
You
about
wanna
the-
do the lots and graves account and the Agawam thing opposing?
Yeah, I'll make my comments, yeah.
Okay.
you want me to do the pro?
What are we saying? What, are we saying approved or rejected?
Well,
What-
it passes as approved, it passes
one.
by majority. If you would like to write a minority opinion, since you voted
Yeah, no,
against it.
I understand that, but based on what Alan was talking about last time as to how we're gonna say.
It's gonna
approved,
be
right?
approved, it's approved.
Approved.
And then we will include a minority
A minority
opinion
opinion.
underneath that if you would like
Okay.
to insert one. I'm giving you to that opportunity since you oppose it.
I mean, the building's there, it's a nice, it's just looks like a wreck now.
Okay,
We gotta do something with it, we shouldn't take the money.
Yeah, but
away
I
from it.
just, you know,
okay.
So write- so you-
That's a
he's
separate-
giving you the option to write
Yeah.
a pro and con.
frankly,
Do you wanna do the
driving a front
pro
end loader through it
I'll
will
do the
take care
pro
of
for
it.
eight
Yeah.
and
I'll see if I can get
For
one set
both
up
of
for you.
those?
Yes, you got a bunch.
Pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing.
we
Yep,
got a new-
8 and
couple new
9.
big ones in.
Yep,
Okay. On the additional liquor license, Jeff, you wanna do that? I like what you said. Jeff, do that one.
The liquor license?
Yeah. What's approval of it and why? Our recommendation for approving it.
Oh, because it's clear to a restaurant.
Rescinding, I'll get that
I
one.
don't know whether you guys have read that a number of mass towns are going to BYOB to get around the liquor license
Some of them are.
in order to make their restaurants more prosperous.
Okay.
really, bring your own booze.
Bring your own booze, yeah.
We've had 2 or 3 of these things that we've had to get rid of, sitting around. And they aren't worth anything. It's actually more legal to transfer the damn thing.
What else we got here?
Someone will pay for it.
We need the Allen Street and the generator. Marilyn, you wanna do one of those?
Sure.
You want them both?
Yep, I'll take them both.
Okay. Give Marilyn those two.
The Allen Street is Allen Avenue on the Google Maps.
Okay.
Really? All right, so get these in as quickly as you can, so Kelly can make sure that she's got a count on everything, because we're doing very, very well, except for the issue with some of these numbers. I'm going to get a couple of them ready to, for these ones that we might have to do at the last minute, of why there was no vote for them at the time of printing. I'll get them to you, so that you have them to insert if we cannot make a vote before that happens. Okay? That will be like the trust insurance, the OPED situation, and the union, the police union. I'll have those ready for her to insert if we can't vote before print.
I hate to admit this, what
Okay.
was the first one you assigned me for this?
I assigned you, Upper Cape Regional,
Thank you. Oh, senior moment.
okay?
If you have some examples of these, I can probably start helping out.
Have you ever read the warrants? You
Never.
ever seen the warrants? Never?
No.
No?
You know,
I have
I
some
mean,
old ones, but I'm kind of
Gone to all
attached
the
to
I
time.
got a
them.
bunch of the old ones if you want. I mean,
you know
last
what,
year.
then you can just put like
I
a
just need a
pro and con explanation.
Left to my
we
own
can get you-
devices, you might not like what you get.
It's your
It's 4 pages.
2 minutes of fame in
Yeah,
front
we
of the
want them
town
short
meeting.
and
That's-
concise. As to why. Okay, so,
An elevator speech in a small building.
Yeah.
as I said, get them to Kelly as quickly as you can so she can get everything compiled, because we are on that deadline for the 10th. Everything has to be ready and into her by the 10th of April. And we'll discuss meeting on the 8th or the 9th, depending on what happens with this, with the budget. So our next meeting will be April 1st on April Fool's Day.
Nice.
Uh-oh.
No jokes. No jokes. All right, let's see, I got everything here. All right. And any liaison reports?
No.
Any other business? Anything you'd like to discuss? What you got there, Marilyn?
I was trying to copy it, but it didn't work,
Oh.
the 26H.
Oh,
I
okay.
even unplugged the machine and plugged it back in.
Oh,
didn't work.
okay.
Those are easy to pull up from the state,
Yeah.
state legal site.
Yeah, I will just copy this and try and email it to everybody.
Oh, the other,
Yeah, the whole thing. This is the whole
okay.
All 26.
thing.
Okay, if you want, Kelly can scan it and email it to everybody. Oh,
The other thing is,
okay, Kelly.
put the website URL, and you just go right to it,
Yeah,
because it just fills it. There's a lot of repetition and so forth in it, but
Yeah, I mean, the state website is user-friendly and then not some days.
I will be starting to compile my thoughts for our introduction. But I would certainly take some suggestions or topics or things that you guys want to get across to Springtown meeting. I don't even know where my thoughts are on this one, since we don't even have a budget right at the moment.
Explain to me what, the first part of it just went right by me, was what Derek was talking about. The school committee
Yes.
voted to approve a budget last Tuesday night,
Yes,
last Thursday night, last Wednesday night,
correct.
and that was not accepted here, or?
It's not that it's not accepted, the school committee voted to accept that number, okay? They are not where Derek needs them to be as far as inserting that within his balanced budget. It's going to be an unbalanced budget if he uses their number, right now. Because he's still looking for them to accept a number that takes in their own, what did you just said to me before?
Health and.
Yes.
all their fixed costs.
Yes, all their fixed costs for employees on their side of the budget. And they haven't gotten to that agreement yet, from what I understand.
Have they ever done that before?
No,
No.
no, they
There's
have
that,
not.
and the other thing that's floating around that we need to make sure we understand about it is where the school buses are and so forth, because this whole thing with the town maintenance center.
Are you on?
No, I don't think so. I am now. Excuse me. There's a voice from the side. We also need to understand where the school buses sit based upon the consolidation, I believe, that the selectmen are working on maintenance and so forth for it, so that's in there. I was confused, I think you were, as to where is all
Well, the town has always paid that non-net, that's on the town side. It always has
Has
been.
been?
Yes.
The school bus thing?
Yes, school buses have always been, that's non-net, it's always been
Okay, so
the
that's not
town
a change then.
responsibility. That's not gonna change.
Newbie, never mind.
That's okay. So anyway, I would be looking for some private input from all of you to my email box on your thoughts about Springtown meeting and where the town's headed, because I need to compose.
You just said what I think your topic should be. Where is the town heading?
Well, I would like to hear from
Yeah,
all of you,
right.
whether I use it or not, I mean, whatever.
It's okay.
This is my swan song, I'm going out with a bang.
And a girl. Me too, babe.
All right.
The finance committee allowed to have a consultant?
No. See, I need approval of meeting minutes of March 18th, 2015.
I move we approve the meetings of the March 18, 2015 meeting.
Second.
Second? Yep.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Very good. And we are scheduled our next meeting for April the 1st, 2015, here, 6:30. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okey dokey then. Okey dokey.